Well, how do you reconcile then the notion? Because I think lot of libertarians are picking up on the notion that we live in a society that is all about the separation of church and state. Because really, the founding fathers were terrified of actual democracy. Democracy is vengeful and it's cruel and it moves way too fast. They created a republic, and the goal of that republic is what? Individual liberty. Now they also said that individual liberty without virtue is a dangerous thing indeed, right? So how do you reconcile what the founding fathers talked about, which was the separation of church and state, and then rule by? Would you change that? Do you
Well,
believe?
each one of the colonies, I believe every single one of them had a state religion. And the state religion was intact even after the ratification of the Constitution. Each state still had a state religion. Those were dismantled over many years after that. The reason the 10th Amendment exists, in fact, is because the government was not going to make a state religion. It was not going to make a federal religion. So the states themselves are able to make a religion for the state. The reason that this happened is because you had all these Protestant sects. This state had this Protestant sect. This one was Catholic. This one was this. And so each one of them had their own kind of, let's say, national church. But at the time, these states were looked at as individual nations, really, under a loose kind of confederation more than a union. That really didn't happen until later after the Civil War, where the United States became really sealed as a union. It was more of a loose confederacy before that. So, no, I don't. First of all, I reject the notion that the founders didn't want or wanted this wall or this separation between the church and state. I'm sure some of them did. But by and large, no, they wanted their states to have independent religions, and they wanted to rule ethically based on those religions. And they did for a long time. Not only that, but if you are to move it forward and kind of think about this objectively, there's no way to separate it anyway. Anytime you have a politician who says it's in God that I trust and all of my ethics come from God and I'm totally religious and I'm going to rule based on that, how are you separating religion from the state anyway?
Right. Mike Johnson said that. Mike Johnson said, if you want to know where I stand, read the Bible.
Right.
Why are we so threatened by it? What do you think it is about? Is it because it's a misunderstanding of the Christian ethic, or is it because people look at it as superstition? What is it that people are so afraid of?
You're not going to like
I want to hear it.
Yeah, you're not going to like the answer, but I'll tell you.
Okay, give it to me.
Because they want a coom. They want a coom, bro. What they want is, so I've never seen anybody say, I want additional rights to do something good. I've never heard it even once. They're never like, I want the right to more responsibility to serve my neighbor better. They want the right to coom, right? They want to get together with a bunch of dudes and have orgies, or they want to get together and have multitudes of sex partners. They want to have, no shame whatsoever in the public arena for any of their sexual ethics or any of their general ethics. They don't want any shame. And so what they do is they go, okay, my right to be a degenerate coomer piece of shit shall not be infringed.
I've never heard the expression coomer.
Yeah, coomer.
What does coom mean?
You know who Destiny is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a coomer.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So what a coomer is.
By the way, for the record, I like Destiny because on the left, at least he takes people on and he pits his ideas and is in. Yeah. I think he's a lot more conservative.
But he calls himself a coomer, right? So what it is it's a sexual deviant. Somebody who's a complete degenerate. They don't give a shit about doing as many drugs as possible. They'll snort cocaine off of a woman's vagina and then get in an orgy that night, and they're sucking dick in the morning. That's a coomer.
You're turning me on right now, but
yeah, that's a coomer. So anyway, what happens is the degenerates in society, they really want to stay degenerate, and they don't want any social shame or pressure of any kind on their degeneracy. And so what they do is they go, well, this country was set up so that if I want to coom all day, by God, I should be able to coom all day. And who the hell are you to tell me otherwise? And it's like, okay, well, this is how we end up with mass pornography. We end up with kids can go online and just go, yes, I'm 18, and look at whatever porn they want, right? There's basically no restrictions
this is
anymore.
What Paul dealt with Wasn't this what Paul the apostle dealt with? He would set up a church, he would leave, and he'd come back and be like, you guys are having sex on the altar. No, you cannot. You get a bunch of priests who are like, hey, you know what? In God's name, we got to bang because it's a purification ritual. And he'd be like, no, we can't be having fucking in the church, guys. You're getting the whole thing wrong. And he'd have to write a letter and like reinstate that is as old as time.
Yeah, Paul's like, what are you cooming in here for? You can't coom in here. What are you doing? Yeah.
And the Old Testament was that all the time. The Old Testament, the Israelites would constantly fuck up. A prophet would come down and goes, guys, you're intermarrying with, you're creating these big temples, which is all an excuse to bang and, worship. You're worshiping false idols. It's all a false God. And then finally, God, at the end of the Old Testament, turns his back. He's like, I'm done with you people. You just don't listen. I send down the Assyrians. I send down the Babylonians. I send down everybody, and you just don't listen. So here it is. But it really is interesting because I'm late to the value of religion in a lot of ways. I always grew up with respect for it, but the amount you learn about today by reading the old, like reading scripture, is pretty fascinating. It's because they were so human and so flawed.
Oh yeah, well, and
nothing changes.
The thing is that and I think that with age especially, people when they refine religion, I think that it's there for everybody, and they kind of follow it whether they want to or not. But when they kind of rediscover it, when they get a little older, their value structures start to change. They stop looking at materialism as being the end-all, be-all, and they start looking at other things, and they realize, oh, man, I really fucked up. I really fucked a lot up, and I fell for the exact same demonic predation as those who came before me, and my kids are going to, and their kids are going to, and it's this kind of endless spiritual battle. And I understand that. But I also think that, Christians have been in charge many times before in history, and they do a damn good job. They really do. Secularists have not done a great job. They're not doing a great job. You know what I mean? We have porn everywhere. We have got coomers everywhere. We have gays in the streets simulating sex acts. We have people inside of major metropolitan areas walking around like fucking zombies who are so hopped up on opioids and other drugs that these people can barely stand up. They literally look like the Walking Dead. You have a feces tracker, which you can use on your phone so that you're not going to step in shit in some of these major metropolitan areas. And this is considered progress? This is the most regressive things I've ever seen in my life. This is not progress. This is the opposite of progress. But people will sacrifice everything for unlimited butt sex. It's madness to me. It's absolute madness. I've never seen any people ever go, I want the right to have more responsibility. I want the right to have more duties in society. I want the right to... They don't ever ask for that. What they ask for is the rights to expand whatever degenerate activity they're after. As I started to dive into this, I realized that the axiomatic principle of all men are created equal, the axiomatic principle of rights themselves, is fundamentally flawed. You don't have rights. They are a product of the mind and human imagination and are nothing more than agreed to principles to keep society together, but they're not objective reality. And so what happens is people too often, they don't think about this when you're talking about what is a right. A right is an entitlement absent of duty. That's what it is. That's what it has become. There are no duties inside of society. You don't have a duty to vote. You don't have a duty to take care of your kids. You don't have a duty to do anything. And so it's become a purposeless society, and the reason is because we give everybody entitlements, no duties whatsoever.